When I work on a logo design project, I'd say that about 90% of the logo designs are modular in terms of their format. Modular meaning the logo mark can exist on its own outside the context of the type or any other graphic element. A good example of this is the Nike brand. They also have an iteration of the Nike mark that's a lockup with the word, but they've come to a point in terms of their brand equity where they can just show their graphic mark and it suffices. Now, here's a good example of that. This is a project I did for Nike. And even on this project, which was a T-shirt for the World Series champions in 2011, you can see that their brand mark is encapsulated here, small, actually handled in the same manner that's actually handled on pro baseball uniforms, just on the collar of the shirt. So I use this approach in terms of doing brand identity, a modular system that is, for formatting logos and composing iterations because of the sheer flexibility of this format. So let me demonstrate to you why this format works so well. So here's one of the explorations I did for a company called Seed Collective. Once again, they grow seeds and then they sell them to farmers and people all around the globe through their website. And this was it's not the actual iteration they went with, but it's one of my favorites from the ones that I presented to them. But I just wanted to use this to demonstrate to you how flexible a modular format is. So all we're going to do here is build a couple more formats using the same components that you see here. So I'm just going to copy this guy and move him over, and I'm going to select this type and move this over. And I like using smart guides. We're going to zoom in so we can actually see what we're doing here. I'm going to grab the bottom of the C, and this is how I'll snap it to like the bottom part of his feet. And then I'm just going to start sizing it. And once again, I'm going to make sure this aligns there. I'll bring it over. We'll bring this guy forward. Like this. So this would be one iteration that would be more horizontal in terms of its format. I think this guy needs to move over a little bit like that. Maybe back over like that. So that would be one iteration in terms of the formatting that I would do. Let's do another one. So I'll bring this down. And on this one, we're going to handle the type a little differently. I'll go up here and I'm going to get the measurement for the height, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, select this type, and I'm going to paste it in. We want to make sure we have this link so it does it proportionately. We'll paste it in here. So that makes the collective type the same size as the seed type, like that. And we can make this a lot smaller now. Then I'll take this. I'm just scaling it down. This is where it's all about just looking at it visually and making a decision what's going to look better. I think it needs to move up a little bit so it's not hugging his shoe. And that looks pretty good. So we've done another horizontal based one, and we're going to do one more really quick. So we'll go ahead and copy this guy, and give us some room to work with. And I'm going to align it with this type using the alignment palette. And what I want to do here, and this is a little trick I do, is I want to put this seed collective type in kind of its own nested shape. And to make sure that it's going to be even, I take any letter form that's flat on top and the one on the word, and any letter form in the collective word at the bottom that's flat on the bottom, and I'll snap to those corners just to get my absolute dimension in terms of its height. And then I'll just pull this out, and in this case, I'm going to snap it to, well, we'll do it to the C down here, like that. Now, just so you can see what I'm doing, let's go to graphic styles and I'll colorize this so you only see a stroke. We'll go up to object, we'll go to path, and we'll go to offset path. And I'm just going to offset this. We'll see what 14 looks like. And maybe a little more. We'll do 15. That looks good. We can toss what we previously had, select the path, go up to object, path, and we're going to add anchor points. And when you do that, that adds an anchor point in the middle of each segment of the shape. We're going to get rid of the two we don't need by deleting those. And now we're just going to select the corners on one side, and we'll use the nudge keys on the keyboard just to push these over. We'll try 7, maybe 10. And then we'll do the other side, select those like that. And now all we have to do is color it. So we'll use the eyedropper, color it. I'll select the type, make sure the type is on front. Collective isn't showing, so we'll select one of those letters. We'll color the word white. And now all we have to do is scale our main character up a little bit, like this, probably a little more. And move them down a bit. That looks good. Now we'll just kind of scale them. And so you can see how really quickly you can do multiple iterations using the same core art, the same brand mark, but a modular system just lends itself to the flexibility of composing the different elements a lot easier. You're not locked into one direction or one way of handling this. And when I present and actually deliver the final files to a client, I'll use this method to give them assets in a broad range so that it can be used for multiple applications, whether it's a header on a website, which tends to be very shallow in terms of its depth, but very wide. So this one here would work well to pull that off to use in that context. So it's very flexible. Let me show you just a few examples of projects that use the same methodology. So here was a logo I did for Christopher Bean Coffee based out of Florida. And this is another iteration because it's modular. Even though the hierarchy here is kind of nested and encapsulated into a motif, it's separated as such that I could still modularly compose it into a more horizontal format. And in this case, we were able to use one of the iterations on their packaging as shown here. Here's another example of that conference identity. This was one of the additional explorations I created for that. But you can see because it's modular, I can create a horizontal format. This just happened to have a lot of type in the logo. It's like using a paragraph in a logo. So modular helped to manage all those components so it works really well. Here's another one. This was for a law firm. They do a lot of law for the racing industry down in that area. So modular format assisted in composing these iterations for their brand system. Here's a user conference for a bunch of coders. And once again, a modular system allowed me to create multiple iterations to make use easier. And the last one is, for the last 4 years, I've created the local TEDx event branding, and this is for one coming up next year called Revolutions. And so once again, I used a modular system to pull off multiple iterations so they can use a different one on t-shirts as opposed to the website, as opposed to print collateral, but it all works as a brand system, as a family of sorts. So you'll see many more modular examples throughout this course because it works well with almost any style that you're going to work in. And it's by far the easiest format due to its versatility of layout and ease of application.